Thank you for joining. Shout out to Jennifer. Shout out to Matt. I'm doing well. How are you? Thank you for being here. And shout out to Christy. Shout out to Kyle. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jisoo. Shout out to Summer. Shout out to Natai. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Natalie. Natalo. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Shout out to Amit. Shout out to Queen. Thank you for liking my videos. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Brian. Bye. Thank you, Matt, Christy, for dropping by. Shout out to Allison. Shout out to Zamari. Shout out to Not Chocolate Cake. Shout out to Elkie. Shout out to Dylan. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Dylan. Shout out to Soma. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Miranda. Shout out to Eliza. Shout out to Camille. Shout out to Matthew. Shout out to Helen. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Greg. Shout out to Delvira or Delvira. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ethan. Shout out to Jane. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Ganam. Shout out to Adriana, or Adriana, sorry. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Soul. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Give it a thumbs up if you like these live streams. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Thank you for being here. Hopefully we can get to 100 likes. So give it a thumbs up. Like this live stream. Shout out to Malia. Shout out to Chance. Shout out to Fran. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Cami. Shout out to Harmony. Shout out to Lisa. Shout out to Melina. Shout out to Erica. Shout out to Salome. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Edgar. Shout out to Shedolesky. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Maria Elena. Shout out to Veronica. Shout out to Peyton. Shout out to Temp. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Martin, thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Adaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Jonathan. Shout out to Bianca. Shout out to Lisette. Shout out to Eduardo. Shout out to Ivy. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Jamie. Shout out to Damaris. Shout out to Cosmo. Shout out to Harumi. Shout out to Sierra. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Carter. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Give it a thumbs up if you are enjoying this live stream. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Like this live stream if you are enjoying the shout outs. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Luna. Shout out to Raisha. Or Raisha, sorry. Shout out to Gordy. Shout out to Evelyn. Shout out to Peter. Shout out to Brayley. Shout out to Cora. Shout out to Leo Renzo. Shout out to Ellis. Shout out to Haven. Shout out to Kamayan. Shout out to Cleo. Shout out to Gretel. Shout out to Tisha. Shout out to Varun. Shout out to JC. Shout out to Georgia. Shout out to Santosh. Shout out to Pretty. Shout out to Elsie. Shout out to Miriam. Shout out to Aileen. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Jess. Shout out to Tasneem. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Kinley. Shout out to Kai Kai. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sabby. Shout out to Ward. Shout out to Amira. Shout out to Molly. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Give this video, this live stream a thumbs up. If you like the shout outs. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Pia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Daniel. Shout out to Simran. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Mariana. Shout out to Diego. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Chitana. Thank you for subscribing. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Aubrey. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to RJ. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Kira. Shout out to Knox. Shout out to Jennifer. Shout out to Caroline. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Easton. Shout out to Miguel. Shout out to Peyton. Shout out to Saida. Shout out to Mace. Shout out to Ruker. Shout out to Yomis. Shout out to Ariadna. Oops. Shout out to Nathan. Shout out to Rista. Shout out to Bentley. Shout out to Sayani. Shout out to Ilam. Shout out to Layla. Or Lila, I'm so sorry if I messed up your name. Shout out to Susan. Shout out to Sabib. Okay, shout out to these people. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. Also subscribe, like and subscribe. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Soma. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Maria. Oops, Maria. Oh my goodness, let me write that again. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to April. Shout out to Clement. Shout out to Alexa. Shout out to Malaya. Shout out to Angelica. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Ria. Shout out to Kels. Shout out to McKenna. Shout out to Stormy. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Melissa. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Princess. Like this live stream if you're enjoying. I hope we can get to 100 likes. We're almost there. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Jala. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Anya. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Veda. Shout out to Sabby and Sophia. Shout out to Elliot. Shout out to Carly. Shout out to Layla. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Mars. Shout out to Naya. Shout out to Cool Kid. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Chelsea. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to all these people. Thank you for being here. On to the next page. If you are enjoying this live stream, give it a thumbs up. I hope we can get to 100 likes. Thank you for being here. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Carly. Shout out to Amira. I forgot how to write Amira. Amira, can you put your name again? Shout out to Faith. Let me write it again. Shout out to Amira. Thank you for writing it again. Shout out to Zoya. Shout out to Brielle. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Remat. Shout out to Hayden. Shout out to Danya. Oh, I hope I spelled that correctly. Shout out to Onjo. Shout out to oh, I missed it. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Ali. Shout out to Travis. Shout out to Tatiana. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Alyssa. Like and subscribe if you like these shout outs. Shout out to Kelly. Shout out to Ishan, sorry. Shout out to Corey. Shout out to Celeste. Shout out to Autumn. Shout out to Jimena. Shout out to Carolina. Shout out to Tink. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Sasha. Shout out to Kizzy. Shout out to Nora. Shout out to Rebecca. Shout out to Hakam. Shout out to Arlith. Shout out to Jalen. Shout out to, oh, it's going fast. Shout out to Dallas. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you like these videos. Thank you for being here. Give this live stream a like if you enjoy the shout outs. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Dolly, thank you for showing me how to pronounce it. Shout out to Corbin. Shout out to Brenna. Shout out to Gracie. Shout out to Yaralde. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Kelsey. Shout out to Lorelai. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Courtney. Shout out to Shiloh, or Shiloh, sorry. Shout out to Miley. Shout out to Willow. Shout out to Kai. Shout out to, excuse me, Isis. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Silas. Shout out to Ken. Shout out to Jackie. Shout out to Kate. Shout out to Kendall. Shout out to Janaya. Shout out to Ben. Shout out to Deacon. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Seraphine. Or Seraphine, sorry. Shout out to Daisy. Shout out to these people. I will be right back. Give me like 30 seconds. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you like these shout outs. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Let's try to get to 200 likes. Shout out to Jonah. Shout out to Sonic. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Willow. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Brax. Shout out to Crystal. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Lonnie. Shout out to Aria. Shout out to Lux. Shout out to Sheena. Shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Addison. Shout out to Kasaya. Let me write it again. Kasaya. There we go. Shout out to Raya. Shout out to Abbott. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Casley or Casley. Shout out to Martina. Shout out to Lexi. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Paula. Shout out to Jungkook. Shout out to Samara or Samara, sorry. Shout out to Azur. Shout out to KB or Kaibi. Shout out to Cyrus. Shout out to Josie. Shout out to Sakina. Shout out to Zion. Shout out to Holly. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Carlos. Shout out to Harrison. Shout out to Tori. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Kira. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Najifa. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Meredith. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Emmy. Shout out to Samaya. Shout out to Jessica. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Aisha. Like and subscribe if you enjoy these shout outs. Shout out to Taylor. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to these people. Okay, on to the next page. Give it a thumbs up if you are enjoying this live stream. We're almost at 200 likes. I hope we can get to 200 likes. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Harley. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Olivia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Hatsun. Miko, thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jessa, thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sophie, thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Mal. Shout out to London. Shout out to Jim. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Bentley. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Mariana. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Talia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jordan. Shout out to Jalen. Shout out to Sanjay. Oh no. Sanjay, can you write your name again? Sorry. Sanjay, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for writing your name again. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Marcus. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Haley. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Yes, please give it a thumbs up if you are enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Aslan. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Christian. Shout out to Kim. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Makai. Or Micah, sorry. Shout out to Summer. Shout out to Kylie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Cora. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Dizzy. Shout out to Holly. Shout out to Rain. Shout out to Kate. Shout out to Helen. Shout out to Camila. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Carly. Shout out to Amaya. Oh no, I messed up. Amaya. Oops, I messed up. Amia, sorry. Shout out to Amia. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Kira. Shout out to Mayumi. Or Mayumi. Shout out to Kim. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Cassandra. Shout out to Annalie. Shout out to Johnny. Shout out to Nova. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Jaden. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to these people. We're almost at 200 likes. We have 3 more likes. On to the next page. 2 more likes and we're almost at 200 likes. Thank you for being here. Write your name if you want me to shout you out. Like and subscribe if you like my content. I would truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Shout out to Jacob. Shout out to Landon. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Gabby. Shout out to Ethan. Shout out to Liana. Shout out to, oh, I missed it. Shout out to Erica. Shout out to Austin. Shout out to Stella. Shout out to Pickford. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Farah. Shout out to Celine. Shout out to Maggie. Shout out to Addison. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Brenda. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Samuel. Shout out to Logan. Shout out to Elle. Shout out to Kathleen. Shout out to Renee. Shout out to Pablo. Shout out to Joyce. Shout out to, oh, I missed it. Shout out to Patrick. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Gabrielle. Shout out to Eric. Shout out to Oi G, or I don't know how to, sorry if I mispronounce it. Shout out to Yuri. Shout out to, I don't know how to, sorry if I mispronounce it, Sunmin. Shout out to Paris. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Mia or Maya. Shout out to Simon. Shout out to Brielle. Shout out to Abigail. Shout out to Mars. Shout out to Lonnie. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Benita. Shout out to Sunjai. Shout out to Emery. Shout out to Miguel. Shout out to Farin. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Caverlin. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying this live stream. Thank you for being here. Give this live stream a thumbs up if you're enjoying the shout outs. Let's try to get to 300 likes. We're almost there. Shout out to Valeria. Shout out to Simon. Shout out to Ren. Shout out to Trinity. Shout out to Helena. Shout out to Farin. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Gabby. Oh no, I think it was 2 B's. Shout out to Gabby. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Gerard. Shout out to Helena. Shout out to Indy. Shout out to Samar. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Tavina. Shout out to Yumi. Shout out to Maggie. Shout out to Naremi. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Kiana. Shout out to Blake. Shout out to Neymar. Shout out to Joe. Shout out to Joseph. Shout out to Megan and Jody. Shout out to Amy or Ami. Shout out to JC. Oops. Shout out to Felix. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Ian. Shout out to Warner. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Dominic. Shout out to Riker. Shout out to Lyra. Shout out to Risha. Shout out to Grace. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this shout out. Let's try to get to 300 likes. We're almost there. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Isabel. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Jonathan. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Blakelyn. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Ezra. Shout out to Salish. Shout out to Irsha. Shout out to these people. We're almost at 300 likes, only 21 more likes. 20 more likes. Thank you for being here. Like and subscribe if you like my live streams and my shout outs. Shout out to Cyrus. Shout out to Carla. Shout out to Adsa. Shout out to Shalimar. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you for subscribing. We're almost at only 10 more likes. We're almost at 300. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Mark. Shout out to Davis. Shout out to Raf. Shout out to Egg. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lindsay. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Mark. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Kenna. Shout out to Amber. Shout out to Julia. Shout out to Addie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Amelia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Cassie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Jojo. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Danya. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Alanis. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Jessiby. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Annalie. Shout out to Naomi. Shout out to Andrea. Shout out to Jesus. Shout out to Natalia. Shout out to Everly. Shout out to Eli. Shout out to Mahelet. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Rayon. Shout out to Javier. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Michaela. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Blair. Shout out to Dara. Shout out to Talon. Shout out to Angelina. Shout out to Altaf. Shout out to Raquel. Shout out to Erica. Shout out to Catherine. Shout out to Cami. Shout out to Leela. Shout out to Cherry. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Dora. Give this shout out, this live stream a like if you are enjoying. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you enjoy these live streams. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Saima. Shout out to Azra or Azra. Shout out to Jeanette. Was it 2 N's or 1? Oh, 2 N's. Shout out to Elizabeth. Shout out to Kieran. Shout out to Vivi. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Persephone. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Melina. Shout out to Tony. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Roblox. Shout out to Nimrat. Shout out to Sanvi. Shout out to Haifa. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying the shout outs. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Sammy. Shout out to Leo. Shout out to Twisha. Shout out to Harrison. Shout out to Jody. Shout out to Evelyn. Shout out to Jendo. Shout out to Raylan or Rylan. Shout out to Nana. Shout out to Dylan. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Alexa. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ronaldo. Shout out to Queenie. Shout out to Jezel. Shout out to AJ. Shout out to Kai. Shout out to Logan. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Nevaeh. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Layla. Oh, I already put Layla. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Lyra. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Ellie Rose. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Veda. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Lena. Shout out to Violetta. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Daria. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying these live streams. Shout out to Iran. Shout out to Cooper. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you like these shout outs. Also check out my other content. Thank you for being here. Let's get to 400 likes. Like this video, like this live stream if you're enjoying the shout outs. Shout out to Natalie. Shout out to Catalina. Shout out to Pia. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Fatima. Shout out to Jenna. Shout out to Destiny. Shout out to Crystal. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Patrick. Shout out to Yenny. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Adriana. Shout out to Walter. Shout out to Cherish. Shout out to Ashen. Shout out to Hank. Shout out to Dasani. Shout out to Angelina. Shout out to Avery. Shout out to Henry. Shout out to Driana. Shout out to Dayama. Oh, I don't know how to spell that. Dayana. Shout out to Camila. Happy birthday. Shout out to Dylan. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Cami. Let's try to get it 400 likes. We're at 333 right now. Shout out to Edward. Shout out to Hassan. Oh, how do you spell that? Oh no. Oh, 2 S's. Shout out to Emmanuel. Shout out to Milo. Shout out to Otis. Shout out to, oh, same color. Shout out to Aisha. Shout out to Maverick. Oh no, Maverick, is it? Oh, okay. Shout out to Baker. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Ferran. Shout out to Gus. I got Diana. Is it Diana or? Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to, I got Ava right here. Shout out to Ava without the H. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Kinley. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Giano. Shout out to Jody. Shout out to Crystal. Shout out to Anel. Shout out to Tanju. Shout out to Dior. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Give it a thumbs up if you are enjoying this live stream. Let's try to get to 400 likes. Like and subscribe. We're almost at 400 likes. Only 60 more likes. 60 more likes. Shout out to Analia. Shout out to Daniel. Shout out to Arnav. Shout out to Crystal. Shout out to what is it? Janella. Shout out to Adrian. Shout out to Ray. Shout out to Pedro. Shout out to Zainab. Shout out to Anel, happy birthday. Shout out to Janaya. Shout out to Mua. Shout out to Trace. Shout out to Jeremiah. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Jody. Shout out to Joanne, happy birthday. Shout out to Juan. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Briley. Shout out to Crystal. Shout out to TJ. Shout out to Scarlett, happy birthday. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Lisette. Shout out to Joseph. Shout out to Aspen. Shout out to Curtis, happy birthday. Shout out to Lily. We're almost at 400 likes. Give it a thumbs up if you are enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Matthew. Shout out to Lily Bell. Shout out to Eugene. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Nevea. Oops. Shout out to Heaven. Shout out to Harmony. Shout out to Dency. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Matthew. Shout out to May. Shout out to Jonathan. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Nyla. Shout out to Brandy. Shout out to Gray. Shout out to Davy. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Wyatt. We're almost at 400 likes. We're only like 43 away. Shout out to Cara. Shout out to these people. We're only 39 likes away from 400 likes. Give this live stream a like. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Keegan. Shout out to Renee. Shout out to Malia. Shout out to Shania. Shout out to Tegan. Shout out to Joanna. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to your Red Sea. Shout out to Maylene. Shout out to Brennan. Shout out to London. Shout out to Rocco. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Lily. Whoops. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Carla. Shout out to Wheeler. Happy birthday. We're almost at 400 likes. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Anna Sophie. Shout out to Salish. Shout out to Celine. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Julian. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Eve. We're almost at 400 likes, only 30 away. Shout out to Ben. Shout out to Mitchie. Shout out to Guadalupe. Shout out to Allison. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Kelly. Shout out to Melina. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Roberto. Shout out to Juliet. Shout out to Kiana. Shout out to Miku. Shout out to Telemon. Shout out to Aryan. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Tito. Shout out to Hala. Shout out to Char. We're almost at 400 likes. Give it a like if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Kushali. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Athena. Shout out to Emu. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Janaya. Shout out to Sanaya. Shout out to Kimberly. Shout out to Shika. Shout out to these people. We're almost at 400 likes. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. Thank you so much for being here. We're 20 likes away. Like and subscribe if you like my content. 19 likes away from 400 likes. Shout out to Bob. Shout out to Tanya. Shout out to Dior. Shout out to Zaid. Or Zaid, sorry. Shout out to Rowan. Shout out to Emily. Thank you for subscribing. We're 16 likes away. Shout out to Antonella. Shout out to Angelique. Shout out to Raima. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Mary or Mari. Shout out to Wendy. Shout out to DJ. Shout out to Timoteo. Shout out to Chase. Shout out to Luis. We're almost at 400 likes. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Giselle. Shout out to Lashana. Shout out to Harriet. Shout out to Blake. Shout out to Salish. Shout out to Nova. Shout out to Capybara. Shout out to Algia. Shout out to Delilah. We're 6 likes away from 400 likes. Shout out to Rahaf. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Yvonne. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Miles. Shout out to Zaya. Shout out to Kelsey. Shout out to Brody. Shout out to Mylene. Shout out to Juan. 2 likes away from 400. Shout out to Vivian. Shout out to Antonella. Shout out to Loanne. Shout out to Cole. Shout out to Anthony. Shout out to Palmer. We're almost at 400 likes. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Dakota. One more like away from 400 likes. Shout out to Ethan. Thank you so much for 400 likes. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Max. Shout out to Lua. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Ashlyn. Shout out to Ion. Shout out to Huan. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. On to the next page. Thank you so much for being here. Like and subscribe. Shout out to Maddie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Anna. Gael. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Alicia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Miley. Shout out to Antonella. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Anai, sorry. Shout out to Moniz. Shout out to Timmer. Oh, I missed it. Shout out to Veronica. Thank you for subscribing. Timmer, can you write your name again? Sorry. It's Trimmers. Shout out to Trimmerthulu. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Emma. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ronaldo. Shout out to Aria. Shout out to Miguel. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Javi. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Annabelle. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jade. Thank you for subscribing. Anna Jael, thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Messi. Shout out to Talia. Shout out to Jenna. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Sanan. Shout out to Isabel. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Nada. Thank you for subscribing. Or Nida, sorry. Shout out to Nerea. Shout out to Tati. Shout out to Mukiro. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. Shout out to Nova. Shout out to Bristol. Shout out to Huria. Sorry if I mispronounce your names. Shout out to Mondira. Shout out to Caleb. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Renata. Shout out to Brayden. Shout out to Evie. Shout out to Helen. Shout out to Melody. Shout out to Mona Lisa. Shout out to Amara. Shout out to April. Shout out to Shinobu. Shout out to March. Shout out to Kaimoni. Shout out to Jessica. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying. Shout out to Annalise. Shout out to June. Shout out to Iris. Shout out to Vani. Shout out to Blake. Shout out to Karen. Shout out to Jiyu. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to all these people. Like and subscribe if you like my live streams and my content. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day or have a great night. Thank you for being here. I will see you next time. Subscribe so you know when I live stream or check out the rest of my channel. Take care. See you next time. Bye. Thank you.